Welcome back to End is the Future, a podcast that brings together great minds to address the opportunities and challenges of making businesses both sustainable and profitable. I am Ilham Kadri, and I'm delighted to be your host today. If you are as passionate about sustainable business as I am, let's explore how End is the Future together. Today, I'm very happy to welcome Bill George, who is one of the most renowned experts on leadership. He's the former chairman and CEO of Medtronic and currently an executive fellow at Harvard Business School. In fact, I had the pleasure of attending his lectures at Harvard, and they were so inspiring. You probably know Bill as the author of the groundbreaking book, True North, as well as many other books on leadership. And he has just published this newest book called True North Emerging Leaders Edition, which he co-authored with the Millennial entrepreneur, Clayton. I'm so excited to hear about this fabulous new book and his incredible leadership journey. Bill, I'm so thrilled, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Ilham, because you're my role model of a leader. All the amazing things you've done before Solvay, the things you're doing there now, but most important, your personal leadership. So it's a privilege to be with you because you're one of the people I really look up to and admire. By the way, just this morning, Fortune came out with its new 500 list. Finally, I would say it's about time. We have 11% of the Fortune 500 leaders are women, are CEOs, female CEOs. But interesting enough, in the last 2 years, it's been the new appointments have been ranging in the level of 25 to 30%. So I've often said we missed so much talent in the past by having predominantly males. So good for you for providing this leadership.
Well, thank you, Bill, and I hope the few of us, and that we're gonna turn the anecdote into mainstream. And thanks for leaders like you who promote, including in the classroom, right, the diversity of not only gender but diversity of thoughts. So I've heard you, Bill, tell a story about how when you were young, you always wanted to be a leader, but had to learn a lot of big lessons on how to actually become one. Can you tell us about your upbringing? I'm a curious, person. I believe it was in Grand Rapids, Michigan, right? You talked about this when I was with you in the classroom. And what made you so interested in leadership at such a young age?
Well, when I was 9 years old, my father pulled me aside and said, I failed to become a leader. Now, I have to say, my father had worked for Booz Allen. I thought he was a very good consultant, but he never took on leadership roles. So he says to me, I'd like you to become the leader I never became. And he even says, to raise my side, son, you could be head of a major corporation. He even named, and I built stock in this company in Atlanta, Georgia, since 1937. It's called the Coca-Cola Company. You could be head of that company. Or it's another great company in Cincinnati called Procter & Gamble, or a new little computer company on the East Coast called IBM. Anyway, I actually wound up working summer jobs for all three companies. But, it was kind of a heavy trip. And just look at it, I didn't even know where these companies were. But I'm pushing my father away because I was closer to my mother. But on the other hand, subliminally, I get these messages. So I thought leadership was about building a resume, an impressive resume, organizing all these things, and never realized it's really about human relationships. And, so I never selected to lead anything. Finally ran for president senior class. And when the votes came in, I ran against only one other person. I lost by a margin of 2-1. So it's pretty clear the kids in my school didn't see me as a leader because I wasn't. I went off to college, went to Georgia Tech to study engineering, ran for office 6 more times, lost all 6. So now I'm 0 for 7, feeling like a real loser. And some seniors pulled me aside and said, Bill, you have a lot of potential, but I can tell you the way you're going, no one's ever going to want to work with you, much less be led by you, because you're moving so fast to get ahead that you never take time for other people.
Oh, wow.
And, they were right. And so I had to really slow down, really build relationships, go back to some of the people that had rejected me, do my own self-help leadership development program. And I was fortunate after that to lead some organizations, but it was a real message for me.
Yeah, well, what's amazing lesson. So slow down, go slow to go fast, bring more people, more followership, right? But it all starts with our upbringing, and this is very common to all my guests, right, in the podcast. And for anyone who hasn't been following your work, can you explain to our audience, Bill, what is the true north and how does one find it?
Well, your true north is the essence of who you are. And I think before you can go on an outer journey like you have to go on an inner journey to figure out who you are. And you have to explore your life story, your difficult times, which we call crucibles, and understand your desires, your motivations, what's causing you to want to take on leadership. As you know, leadership is very challenging. It's very difficult. But if you don't have you don't really know who you are, you're going to try to emulate somebody like Jack Welch. You're going to try to be, he was the all powerful leader when I was CEO. And, you're going to try to be something different than you are. And then you're going to become across as very inauthentic. And so I think to be the authentic you. And for a long time, people felt like they had to be different than who they were. And I think now the essence is people just want to know who you are. Have you ever had a difficult time? Have you challenged? Of course, you have. And have you ever been discriminated against? You ever run into roadblocks? Of course you have. And so I think those things really become the essence before you can then go off on the outer journey and lead other people. And people that jump past that and try to oftentimes find themselves in difficult times in their 40s because they haven't done that kind of inner sense of themselves.
Yeah. So the authenticity, and I remember we discussed it a lot in your classroom, and you were one of the few, and frankly, you were kind of pioneer because, as you said very well, Bill, we were groomed, educated in the Western world. I grew up in Africa where, we were very much more open about our vulnerabilities, and mentoring is part of our social life. But indeed, in the Western world, you had to show the muscles. Yes, I can do it, rather than bring your authentic or whole self at work, which sometimes, doesn't make it very happy world to be in, including from the leadership point of view. And you were a kind of pioneer. You were one of the first leaders, writers, inspiring thought leader who really start talking about this clear transformation in leadership and the inner, side that's happening, where it's no longer enough to just have charisma, big ego, and focus on how much money you can make, because the younger generation are not interested in that. They want to work for leaders who have purpose and companies that are doing something meaningful. When did you start noticing this now unmistakable trend, Ben?
Well, I would say I noticed it in the 80s and the 90s as CEO. I felt it various with a lot of other CEOs because it was all about charisma, big ego, being the all powerful person on top, directing everyone to do, and you're measured by how many people you had working for you, which is a total inaccuracy. And so when I left Medtronic, it's hard to write a book when you're there, but I always wanted to share my ideas with other people. So I wrote a book in 2003, which was 20 years ago, called Authentic Leadership. And I said, why can't we just be who we are? Be the person we were called to be. Isn't our unique self pretty good? In fact, great. And be that person. That's all people want from you. And a lot of people said, gee, what's it mean? I think they were scared to be authentic. I think they were scared to show. I think you were born in Morocco, weren't you?
Yeah, indeed.
And why wouldn't you share that with people?
Yeah.
It's an integral part of who you are. And, you can't hide the fact you're a woman, and born in a different, just something to be proud of, right? Not something to say, I'm trying to be like somebody else. And I think, Oscar Wilde once said, just be yourself because everyone else is taken.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the whole essence of that. And then later I got into writing the book True North about other people's experiences, but trying to look at, say, you can, and by the way, you don't have to be CEO. How many people do you have in COVID You want every one of them to lead. If you're the only one
Yeah,
leading and everyone else is sitting around just waiting for you to give orders, it's never going to work. You want them to lead
absolutely.
no matter where they are in the world. You want them to step up and lead now. So I think people got too much caught up with titles and how much money they were making, and the person making the most money is the most powerful. This is all nonsense to me. You can lead right where you are. Even people today, we've neglected. I believe we neglected the frontline people. Who are the people in your company
Yeah.
doing the
Yeah.
work? They're the ones that we need to really honor and value. These people, are working really hard. And by the way, a lot of them lead by example, or they train fellow colleagues. They set the standards. They're the culture carriers for your whole organization. And if they believe in the quality of the work, you can't force them to believe that. But if they believe in it, there'll be a standard for everyone else to follow.
So now that you've written this wonderful book called True North Emerging Leader Edition, why did you feel that a new edition of True North was needed right now? And help, can you explain more for our audience what's in there that was not in the True North book?
We're going through a massive transformation in leadership. You could simplistically say it's from the baby boomers to the emerging leaders that I define as Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z. And
Yeah.
it's all of those. So everyone younger in the early 50s. And they're great role models I include in the book from the baby boomers. But I think too much as an overall generation was too much about how much money you made, who was the smartest person in the room. Came one time in your life in the consulting field where we kind of venerated the smartest person, but it's really not about that today. It's this change of I want to make a difference. I want to really help people through my work. And I think the emerging generations are really committed to that. And I think we need leaders that are sensitive to that. Does everyone in your organization feel included, regardless of their race, their gender, the country they were born in, sexual identity, religion, or do they feel like I'm kind of separate from everyone else? I'm not really a part of this. If they don't feel included, you're not going to have a great organization. And they come together not around how much money you made last year, but is there a deeper sense of purpose? Do we
Yeah.
have clarity? That's the exact things you, to your credit, went out and listened to what people had to say. That's really what it's all about, because it's amazing. When I joined Medtronic, I spent a tremendous amount of time just listening to people and listening to customers, listening to first line employees. And I learned so much from them, about what were the issues we had. And some of these things didn't get, frankly, filtered up to the top through reporting or statistic. That was important, but not nearly as important as what I learned by really talking to people, listening and watching and seeing with my own eyes how things were working.
Yeah.
That was my I think the great thing that I really got out of it.
And you're right. I think from generation of leaders to others, I have a Gen Z at home, my own kid, and it's interesting because and my CEO office, I have so many young people around me. I practice reverse mentoring, which we discussed also in your classroom, about how leaders like me, at the end of the day, our role is to prepare the company for future leaders to replace us and take it to another level of prosperity. And I think what I liked also in your book is that you are featuring, and I really loved stories of the authentic leaders and other stories than the ones I read before. And you say this. I think it's about having empathy, is about bringing the authentic self. These people, they lead, as we call it at Solvay, with their hearts and the minds. And that's what we call achieving the power of the A&D, because they can be more effective business people and care for their people. So can you tell us or tell our listeners about one or two of these great leaders, some stories, a few of your favorites, Bill?
Yeah. But by the way, I think you just nailed it. That's what leadership today is all about. To be a great leader today, you have to lead with mind, if you will. You have to understand critical thinking. You have to understand the numbers, and you also have to make a difficult decision. On the other hand, you also have to lead with the heart. Do you have passion for Solvay's work? Do you have compassion for the people you're serving? If you don't do a good job serving your customers, Where are you? And do you have empathy for the challenges people face? If you have an accident, are you concerned about accidents in one of your factories? I'm sure you are. But we
Yeah.
want everyone to be concerned, and it has to be work just perfectly. So we have a very safe environment and a healthy environment. And I think also you've shown it since you've been there, tremendous courage to make the changes necessary that have to be made. And I found there's some really good managers out there that are not courageous. They're frankly better managers. They're great at kind of sitting on top and understanding everything and running the numbers, but they really don't have the courage to make bold decisions. And today we live in such tumultuous times that you need to make bold decisions. One of the people who did that is Indra Nooyi, who was former CEO of
Mhm.
PepsiCo. Yeah, I feature
Yeah.
her because she led through a crisis. Now she changed the mission. She gave it. PepsiCo never really had a purpose other than making soft drinks and food. As I teased her once, I said, high sugar drinks and high fat foods. But she put nutrition on the scale and said, this is
Yeah.
real important and we need to make healthier products. And we're going to do that. We're going to have good for you or healthy for you products. And then she got some criticism because they lost a couple of tenths of a point in this soft drink business. And she had to make some adjustments from all of her shareholders. And then an activist investor came in, Nelson Peltz, who, by the way, has gone into Unilever and other places and tried to break it up the company. And she said, no, this company matters. We're together. We're better together because people eat our products together. When we go to Walmart, we can leverage our business because we can bring things that Coca-Cola doesn't bring. We bring the full food as well as the beverages. We have healthy beverages. And so she was way ahead of her time. And so this activist tried to take her over and break up the company. And she strongly resisted. And she got her board to back her. And I thought she showed enormous courage during that.
Yeah.
Been easier for her to go along. And I'm sure they would have made a nice financial settlement. No. She'll be always remembered for those two things, bringing nutrition to the company. And when the company was under great pressure, that she stayed in there and built a great company. And I've worked with PepsiCo. And I can tell you it's a great company today, but largely because Indra Nooyi kept it on the right track for the 21st century.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. And I look up at her as one of my role models as well. In the book, you talk a lot about, I think you mentioned it, the crucibles or the challenges that can shape you as a leader and really make you rise to the occasion. And I think we can all relate to that in our history. And I think more and more the youth, the employees, the student, they want to hear more about those. What are those examples from the book? And what were those crucibles for you as a leader, Bill?
Well, I faced a real crucible. I was with Honeywell. I mentioned earlier my father wanted to be head of a major corporation, so I went with Honeywell. The 3 best years of my life were living in Brussels, Belgium, running Honeywell Middle East, U.S., Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And I just loved it. Traveled all over from Norway to Cape Town, but really loved the experience and bringing together different nationalities. Before my predecessor had tried to impose American ways on Europeans, I knew that wasn't going to work. And so we brought all the Europeans into top level leadership, the chairman of Germany and the head of UK and France and Italy. And this worked really well and building this up. And I loved the experience. Then I got called back to the corporate headquarters. I got a 2-step promotion, worst promotion of my life, because I found out I was dealing with huge bureaucracy and they gave me all the turnarounds no one wanted to do. So I was on my 3rd set of turnarounds when one day I woke up and I said, is this really what I want to do? If I do become CEO, and I was modestly probably the leading candidate to become the next CEO, because they've been giving me all these challenges just to prepare. I said, it'll take 7 years to get the company back where it was 5 years ago. But I don't feel good about what I'm doing. And I also was kind of playing the game of trying to back with the same mistake I'd made when I was younger, playing the game of like the man saying just the right thing, not being myself. And it's where you're engineers, you don't show any passion, you don't show any commitment, and I really wanted to do that. And so that's when I made the decision to take a step back, go to a smaller company called Medtronic, mid-sized company. And it was the best decision of my professional life because I felt like I was with a group of people that were really passionate about the mission of restoring people to full life and health, led by a clear set of values. And it was just a great 13 years I had there and had the chance to lead the company. And of course, as you may know, it's grown up now to be a pretty good sized company, 32 billion in revenues and over 100 billion market cap. So it's a large company today. But when I went there, it was kind of mid-sized and didn't have a sophisticated global system that we had to create that and put that in. And but I love my time, and I think that's kind of, for me, that crucible I had of being really unhappy at Honeywell, even though I was outwardly doing well. Inwardly, I was not doing well because I was just kind of like a duck out of water. And I didn't love the business. And I found I really loved Medtronic business. So that was the best move I ever made. And it kind of led to all these things I've done since then, teaching at Harvard and writing books and doing things as well. To get some clarity about what's important for me. And maybe something else is important to someone else, but that was what was important to me.
Yeah, this is an amazing story. I love it. It's about starting with yourself, and you say this in the book. The hardest person you will have to lead is yourself,
Yeah.
and you are giving us great lessons, including do not care about the size of the business. I'm a mentor, and some of my mentees, I give them the same example where I moved from Europe to Middle East, and obviously got smaller business, but it was, so greater than the businesses I had before because I had to develop it. I was with people who shared the same vision, values, and purpose, and the engagements and the followership was there. So, and I like also, Bill, the parts in the book where you talk about this shift from I to we, which we hear a lot of I, and I love that part. And you say that the true leaders must make that crucial shift. Can you tell us more?
Great. I really think that, people don't want to just work for you to aggrandize you and make you successful. They want to have a stake in the enterprise. And
Yeah.
when you become a true leader, and, and as a true leader, you're leading other leaders and not just managing people. You have to flip that switch and realize, no, it's all about us. And people are there not to serve me. I'm really there to serve all the people and my customers and our shareholders and our investors. That's what my job is. And I'm really a servant leader. And so I have to flip that switch and realize it's not just about me getting ahead, and people are not there just to make you get ahead. They want to fulfill their own sense of purpose, their own sense of, they want to know they work for a company that matters. They want to be able to go home and tell their families, tell their friends, tell their colleagues, wow, we are doing some amazing things at our company. You may look at us one way, but no, you should see the things we're doing for people today, both outside our customers and inside the company. You want to have that pride, and that's how you build a great company. But if you, the leader, didn't make that shift, then everyone else can be out for themselves and be creating kind of, frankly, a political jungle. So I think we have to do that to build great organizations.
I love it. So servant leadership is something we talked a lot about it at Solvay, and it's not about me. And be frugal. The great leaders, they eat last, and the best probably gift you can give to our listeners and youngers is exactly what I tell them. The high potential needs to be tested in the most difficult spaces, scopes, geographies. And when thou appointed me, I remember in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I think my Saudi partners were thinking, what's this? They are pushing a lady she cannot even mingle with men at that time, and I had to wear abaya, right? So and I took it thinking, wow, this is a great project. I loved what I could see, and Rivers and others believed in me that I could actually go through the challenge. And it was the best assignment in my career. It was not easy. For 6 months, I struggled. After the Saudi and Aramco, partners start to call me their sister, and they start helping me. That time I knew I became a competitive advantage. But frankly, I came there, and most of my friends and mentors, actually, some of them say, you are stupid, don't do it. You are killing your career. And I said, look, I follow a bit my instinct, but you're right. I think that's the true north. And the North Star, right? In a way. And can you help us explain the difference between the true North
Yeah.
and your North Star, Bill?
But that's a wonderful story about you're going to Saudi Arabia. And again, I encourage you to pick out who are the emerging leaders in your organization.
Yeah.
They probably don't report to you, probably a level down, level 2 down, and giving them those opportunities. I think one of the forms, we'll come back to diversity later, but one of the forms of diversity we don't have is age diversity in organization. And you mentioned reverse mentoring. I think we really need to listen to the voices of people who are very different than we are and get their experience to understand their passions. So, okay, so back to your question.
Yeah, true North and North Star.
And so your true North is who you are. Okay.
Yeah.
And so but your North Star is that constant point in the sky. It shows it because there's always a North Star that's available to everyone. You can see the North Star, and that is a constant point in the sky. That's the purpose of your leadership. So for me, I'd like to think of myself who I am as I'm a value-centered person who tries to stay true to what I believe and centered in my beliefs. My North Star, if you will, is enabling other people to reach their full potential. So if I could just say one little bit on this podcast that maybe caught somebody who was listening, that it really inspired them to go to realize their full potential. And that's my goal. And that would make the whole time with you worthwhile, because I think that's what I do. Here, interesting enough, I've never had a job where I knew as much about the work, the business, as the people who work for me. And so what did I bring to them? I was never the super expert. I couldn't design a defibrillator at Medtronic. I was never the expert at Honeywell. At Harvard, I'm not an expert academic. The only thing I can do is to try to work with other people to enable them as leaders to step up and realize their full potential. And sometimes that means seeing gifts they have that maybe they're too modest or they don't see in themselves, and having to pull that out of them and giving them opportunities to say, you really have those opportunities. Maybe Saudi Arabia is that opportunity for you, that it pulled things out of you that you didn't even know were there. So me, that's what I want to do. That's my North Star. And that's the difference between true North, which is who you are, and your North Star is really what you're going to do and your purpose.
It's beautifully said. Talking about, politics, social issues, the macros, right? And geopolitics are becoming very challenging. And I believe that's my CEO role. I mean, I was a CEO in the US with the company Diversity, and I met you in between my two roles. But since 4 years, 5 years, I feel that the job also is changing a lot. And a lot of business leaders and peers today wonder how involved they can be in political and social issues, because it's blurring, right? It's coming to our homes, in our companies, with our partners. In your opinion, when should business leaders take a stand on these issues, Bill?
I think that's a great question. And let me just say, being a CEO today is much tougher than when I was CEO. Your job is much tougher than I ever had, because society has expectations for CEOs, not just about your earnings per share and your financial reporting. They have expectations for you to make a real contribution to society. Now, in Europe, it's always been much more that way than in the United States.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to what are the mission and values, or what's the purpose and values of Solvay. And when you have something that's grounded in that, then I think you need to take a stand. Right now, there's big pushback in the U.S. There was this big ESG movement, environmental, social, and governance. Mm-hmm. And now there's a big pushback against it. And I was with a company that does Ecolab that did for 2 days last week, does tremendous amount for the environment, and trying to deal with water issues and energy issues and cleanliness issues. And they were saying they're getting a lot of pushback. I said, no, that's who you are. Are you getting pushback for the things that Solvay is doing that are really good things? Hang in there, do it. But, there are other issues. Maybe this may take a little risk, but having lived in Brussels, you don't necessarily want to get into the political disputes between the Walloons and the Flamands. No, really. I mean, not, you're not the one to try to adjudicate those agreements. You want to respect both, because you have employees that are are both, and so, but I think it's important when a values issues come up, when an issue that
Mm.
reads on your purpose. If it's a healthcare issue, Medtronic has to be there. Medtronic has to step up to that issue. Paul Pullman at Unilever had to step up to the sustainability issues. Once he put his stake in the ground behind that, then he can't back off. So that's when I think you step up, and we get in, particularly in the U.S. now, there's this huge political back and forth, and it's very unhealthy, I will say. And I think the reason people are looking to you to step up because they see that business has potential to really make a difference, to really impact things in a very positive way.
Yeah, no, it's so important, and I know you do a lot in your personal life as well. You and your wife started the George Family Foundation back in the 90s, right? And which has given away more than $70 million, mostly in health and well-being. I must have been so important for you, right, Bill, to give back. Tell us more about that.
Well, you kind of come into this world with nothing and you leave with nothing. And the idea you can, as I try to tell wealthy people who aren't giving any money away, they're a lot wealthier than I am, you can't take it with you. And what mark are you going to leave on this earth? And people will remember those much more than how much money you're worth, how many people you commanded, what your title was, any of those things. They'll remember what you did for other people. So my wife is very passionate about looking at the whole person in healthcare. In other words, don't look at me as a body part. She had breast cancer and had breast surgery.
Wow.
Don't look at me as a body part. Look at me. I want to be a whole person, mind, body, and spirit. And so we're trying to bring this more to transform healthcare. My goal, closely associated with my teaching, is we're trying to transform leadership. We're looking to get behind leaders, nonprofit leaders, and leaders in other walks of life who are really making a difference in the world, and then fund them and look for young people coming up with great potential. Maybe they wouldn't have the opportunity to go to the school they went or to get through it because they don't have the financial wherewithal, to give them those opportunities. And so we're doing a lot in leadership. We're also working a lot with developing youth and also with the environment, because I think all these things come together where we're trying to get behind athletic leaders who are whole in mind, body, spirit, and community. So thank you for asking, but we just had a board meeting on Saturday, so it's very top of mind, very exciting to say, how can we give it away, And I admire people, like I say, have a lot more money than I do. They are like Bill Gates, Bloomberg, giving away, Warren Buffett, now giving away. They've done very well financially, but they're going to give it away. So why not?
And I want to celebrate your wife, Penny. It's great to hear that they are behind the great, successful, inspiring leaders like you. There are invisible heroes and great spouses, and your wife. Not only you say this, and thank you for sharing. She's a breast cancer survivor, but an advocate for this healthcare for everyone, holistic healthcare for everyone. So thanks to you both. I think you are so inspiring. We look up at you and we want to do exactly the same. So to finish with few advices to our listeners, the youth from Solvay and beyond, to become, great leaders today or tomorrow. And the second, what do you enjoy doing beyond being a teacher, a great leader? What's your true North Star and your...
So I'm going to throw a third one in because I learned a lot from you, Ilham. We were at a board meeting. I think it was A.O. Smith.
Yes.
And asked me to come in. And we were talking about how important it is to have a diverse team around you. And you used a story, I believe it was at Bain, where you were at one time one of the top 8 people in the company. And you said we did these stories. We came from very diverse backgrounds, but we all had the same point of view. And I learned that, diversity really is about feeling a sense of inclusion, where it's not about diversity. It's not, just having all the check the box, so to speak, that people like, but it's feeling that I feel I belong here at Solvay. I really feel included and my opinion is respected, so that you can have people with diverse sets of opinion. That was your point, was how important that is. And I've carried that out to all of my work. And I think every leader needs to ask their people, I don't care what level you are, get the diverse set of opinions and have people around you who will challenge you. I certainly want to give your leaders advice. have truth tellers around that say, Bill, you're going the wrong way, or you just dominated this meeting and didn't give people a chance, or whatever it is. Have those truth tellers that will tell you the truth. And I'm sure you want these people on your team too, because everyone just sits there and applauds and say what a great leader you are. You may be walking off the cliff together. And so you need to see that you have people around you. So you build a diverse team. And then, I see today you're much more of a coach than you are a manager, and a coach who cares about your people and who challenges them to do better. And, and sets high goals, but brings them together around a common mission and values. If you can do that, you'll be a great leader, and you'll have plenty of good managers working for you. But the leader is the one that really makes the difference, that can set a high goal, bring people together to achieve that goal, and then you can celebrate. So it's not just those of us on top getting all the rewards. So I think if we could spend more time as leaders with the front line. When I was at Medtronic, I saw between 700 and 1,000 procedures where I actually meet the doctor about 6:30 in the morning, go to his locker, put on the greens, go in and watch a procedure. I wasn't selling anyone anything, but I was really learning and listening about how things work in my business and seeing how it translated out to the customer and what problems the customer have. Sometimes they're seemingly trivial to people back at headquarters, but they're really important to that customer. So I think that learning and understanding, right? I would go to lunch and sit down and have a group with a group of factory workers and say, hey, how's the quality today? And they say, oh, Mr. George, the machines here are not working well. We can't get the quality we need. That passion that people have. And I think that's the advice I would give to people. And so what do I do for fun? I went Zermatt skiing this winter. I ski in Europe and the United States a lot. We have a second home out in Colorado, but I went with a Swiss colleague. We went skiing in Switzerland. It was great fun to be back in Zermatt. I've been there several times. I love to travel. Coming back to Europe this fall, I haven't been to Belgium or Paris in several years because of COVID, and I'm looking forward to that. And I love to climb mountains. Out in Colorado, we climb 14,000 foot peaks, which is, 4,500 meters.
Yeah.
That's great fun. And so my hobbies are kind of different, but I believe at a certain point in time, you have to really stay physically active and clear your head, be mentally sharp at the same time. And then I love to mentor people. That's what I do. So I've got a lot of people at all ages that I'm mentoring, trying to help them along the way. And that's part of fulfilling my own purpose of trying to help people reach their full potential. And so I love to do that because that's, I think, something I can bring to them, a little wisdom of the years.
Wow. Well, thank you. So you're saying take care of yourself, right? To ensure that you stay in shape, to take care of others. Well, thank you so much, Bill, for this fascinating conversation. Truly inspiring. Like day one, I think I met you indeed. First time was at A.O. Smith's, where I sit in the board, and I was so inspired that I want to be, at that time I knew I wanted to be in the class with you, and you are such a great example of leadership, but of this wisdom, teaching, sharing the wisdom, transmitting, and you said it's a coach who achieved that power of the end, and I'm so glad to have you today, and you motivated, and you will continue motivating so many others to follow in your footsteps and become both effective business people, but also empathetic leaders, and that's okay. So thank you so much, Bill, for your generosity and wisdom.
Well, thank you for the privilege of being with you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. For more information or to listen to other episodes, visit our website. And if you like these podcasts, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, be safe.